What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Double Coverage. We hope you're still living, loving, and breathing sports. I'm Dom with the great man Sauce and another special guest, and this one is very special. The CEO of HGA, Hybrid Grading Approach, Tyler Hitt. How you going?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Saucy, you going well?
I'm going well, Doma. Early rise here to make sure we get this podcast done for the double coverage family. And I'm excited because I seen HGA hit the scene. It popped up in all the Facebook groups. Who's this new player? And you know me, Doma. I was right onto it, jumping onto their site. Within the first week that had opened, we were analysing their site, what they were all about. And, Doma, two of my favorite acronyms, and HGA have them. What are they?
Well, the acronym is AI, and that is artificial intelligence. And the other thing that you absolutely love is subgrades. So they have both of those things.
So tick and tick for me. They're already on the right. They're already on the right track. And you know what's the greatest thing? You know what's the greatest thing about HGA? They have a 9.5 grade. Who would ever thought that having a 9.5? Who would ever thought that would be such a great idea?
And a subgrade
PSA, that's for sure.
And a subgrade to tell you how to get there. Anyway, enough about us. Let's get straight into it. But before we ask you about HGA, because we know you're very passionate, I've heard you on a few other podcasts and you love it. And rightfully so, it is your baby. First and foremost, you have been an avid collector for a very long time. The question is, as you are a part of the hobby, not just as a grading company, but as a collector, when did you start collecting cards, and what type of cards do you collect?
Originally started collecting when I was a kid. We could go down to the local card shop and we'd just buy little packs of cards at what we could afford. A couple dollar pack here, a couple dollar pack here, and we traded them, played with them. Not a good idea looking back, but no, we played with them and we traded them. We sat down and we between Hot Wheels and Pokemon cards and basketball cards. That's what we collected, and we traded and wore them out.
Very nice. So what's the cards that you like to collect? Just NBA, NFL, Pokemon?
Yeah, I don't really collect much Pokemon anymore, but real heavy into NBA and NFL.
Very nice. All right, let's get into HGA. Tell us a bit about the company and what was its inspiration.
A little bit about the company and inspiration. Inspiration was once I got rolled back heavy into it a little over a year ago. I was dumping $20,000 a week on cards, breaks. I was going pretty heavy into it during COVID. Some of my businesses were shut down with just like the rest of the world. So we had nothing to do. So I started really getting heavy into it, and I started subbing stuff back with PSA, getting stuff graded with my friends and getting cards back. And then we just recrack them, resub them, get different grades. I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, how do you continually get different grades with the exact same card you're grading? So I was like, there has to be a better way. So we just started talking about it. And, the more you research on different grading companies, you'd see people like, why is there no AI used? Why is there no computers involvement inside the grading world? And so I mean, my team, we were all sitting at home, stuck at home during all these quarantines. And so I started reaching out to my development team, IT team, and seeing if it would even be possible. So we reached out to a couple people who had, worked in the image processing field, like with Kodak and different like camera functions. We thought, being able to scan photos was something since they've done, we'd be able to, cross over and use some of their platform for the AI. So we went ahead and hired 8 people, and we started developing it over a course of about 9 months.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
So when did that process begin? Like, you were like, I'm gonna start, and you started the development of the AI process. Like, was it like March last year, April last year?
It was, I believe, the beginning of April. I mean, it was roughly end of March, beginning of April area, and our first month, we kind of moved slowly, just reaching out to different developers, and we had to write down exactly what we were trying to accomplish, and then start bringing on developers. We had to bring on machine learning specialists, and just lots of different pieces that go into it. And we finally, it took about a month to really start gaining some fluidity inside of our operation itself before we really started getting a grasp of which direction we needed to go. But it took us about 9 months to actually build it out.
Okay, 9 months.
No, I'm just trying to put it into perspective for people. Yeah, like you've got PSA who has Uber's amount of money, right? And then you have you who, I mean, you've got amount of money, but you've just come out of thin air and made this happen over 9 months. And you've got PSA who's sitting there, with their fat wallet and haven't done jack shit. So like, I'm just trying to point it out to people, like, someone like PSA, unfortunately, is taking the people in the hobby for a ride because they just haven't improved. And they haven't done anything about what the main issue there, which is the massive backlog, let alone the average grades and mediocre grading process that they have. But
Right.
it's just, I'm just trying to tell people, like, think about it in that perspective. When you've got a company that's has, where people have been asking for this AI grading for so long, and they've spoken about it in their quarterly newsletters that they're going to have robotic automation, and they still haven't done anything. So like, it baffles me in that fact, in respect to them. But I just, credit to you and credit to your company that you've made it happen over a period of 9 months to start up. And I just want people to realize that it's they're sort of lagging behind in a few things, and people need to wake up and smell the roses, and in a sense, and realize that AI is the way of the future. It has been the way of the future for the. So the fact it's not already incorporated into cards is crazy.
Completely. But the next question is, why AI, Tyler?
It became about from sitting there grading over and over and over, and we just got tired of the inconsistencies. And I was like, there has to be a way. Anything major these days has some type of machines or computerization in it. And why not with grading cards? I have no idea. But when you're the largest company and you only have one true competitor, BGS, and you're a $1 billion company and they're a $500 million company, what do you have to change? Why do you have to change? You don't. You're competing against one other. I mean, you don't have like a lot of competition. So it's good for any company that comes out, because people are like, are you scared about CSG? Any other of the companies coming out? No, competition's good. It produces better results for the customers. It holds me as a owner. It holds me accountable to try to provide a better service to earn your business, and that's what they're lacking. For years they've been dominating the market, and we were coming to push them. If at worst it makes them go out and they start getting a AI system, if it makes them hire more people and start training better, at worst I've helped improve the hobby.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. That's a great way to have an outlook on the whole entire situation. With AI, though, a lot of people have said, when we've spoken about it, people are going to lose jobs and artificial intelligence is going to take over the industry and there's going to be unemployment. Oh, you got to have some compassion for people. And I said, well, they'd probably make it work. They're not going to just kick everybody out of the office and say, hey, listen, we've got 8 employees. Now we've got AI. We only need one of you to run the machine. So can you give the listeners and the viewers a bit of an insight into the makeup of the company, and that AI isn't a cancellation of human help?
It's actually the quite opposite. It actually requires more. We have to actually, use our dust-free rooms. So it keeps, us in there inspecting our dust-free rooms, make sure it's completely free of dust. It keeps cleaners. We have to add cleaners to our staff. So they actually completely wipe down the card, make sure that there's no dust, pollen, lint, or anything on these cards. And then we have a scanner, somebody that'll actually place it on the flatbed, actually scan it. And then they also have another person that actually runs the analyzation program on the card. So we actually add 3 people to the process, 2 to 3 people per card to the process versus PSA or BGS. So where people were like, oh, you're using it, so you should be cheaper. No, we have extra steps. We still, after it gets scanned and graded by the computer, just like any machine that builds anything, whether it's nuts and bolts and screws, you still have quality assurance. We still run it through 2 layers of quality assurance to make sure that what we have set the algorithms at is still, consistently grading at. So our graders are sitting there making sure, like, yes, this is spitting out of 10. It does look perfect. Everything on it is exactly right, and we move it through. another QA looks at it and makes sure that they believe that the machine is still right. If they see anything out of whack whatsoever, we report it back. We pull up the scans with our IT, with our developers, and then they check it over to make sure that it's not, picking up anything or over analyzing things.
There you go. So
so technically, those words there have told me that if I get a HGA 9 on my first sub and I crack that and send it back to you, I'm going to get a HGA 9 again on that same card.
You better.
Oh no, that's bad for people in the hobby though.
Oh, but come on, Tyler. That's not how it works. I'm supposed to just keep sending it back till I get a 10, isn't it?
You've been dealing with PSA long enough, haven't you?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't. If you look, Tyler, you haven't listened to our show, I'm sure of it. But if you ever get a point and you want to listen, you will just see some of the absolute tee offs. I put them on the tee and I just whack it as far as I can, and PSA's name is on the ball, and it's just going and going and going and going, and BGS as well, both of them. Look, yeah. I haven't sent any cards to BGS or PSA for 8 months because I refuse to. I refuse to give them my business because they have taken the customer for granted. So, there I am doing my part. I'm not sending them cards. I'm not giving you money because you're not looking after the customer. And without the customer, you don't have a company. So, that's where I stand. And it's a customer-based business, grading cards. And they just don't look after the customer in all facets. Yep. In terms of grading, it's mediocre. On PSA side, on BGS, I think they're a bit better than PSA, in my opinion. And yeah, just on both sides in terms of the grading and just in terms of the whole scheme of waiting and backlogs and here we are 12 months down the track and still nothing has gotten any somewhat better. So.
It continues to get worse, actually. And like I said, I'm not bashing the companies. It'd be silly me to bash companies way larger than what I am right now. But I do bash their customer service. I do bash that they're not trying to keep up. It doesn't look like, we've already, started to increase what we're able to expand. We're a smaller company, a startup. And, I mean, we're at what now? Over a year now into this pandemic, about a year into this pandemic. And the times have still gotten longer. And then PSA just announced they're now doing Funko Pops grading. So it's like, okay, you have this backup. Let's throw something else in here to back you up more. I just don't get it.
No, it's funny, Tyler, that you mentioned that and stirring the pot a bit. But Tom actually went on our Instagram in our reels, and he absolutely lost his marbles over that Funko Pop thing. During the week, he absolutely lost his shit. Like he said, how the hell can you provide another service when you can't even fix the current service? So, like you said, we're not trying to tee off. It's just more the fact of it is customer based, and the service is the main thing, and it's a perfect tie-in to yourselves because I know that you have limits on what you receive each week and what you put out each week, which is fantastic. So, give us an insight into that and the listeners as well into your customer service.
So my whole thought was to completely go with this a whole different approach instead of opening up kind of like SGC did and just taking everything they did when they had a chance to get market gain. I was like, we'll set limits, and each week we'll continue to train, hire, and expand. Now we've blown up way faster than I thought. I mean, way faster than I thought we would. But my whole goal was set limits and then just continue to grow with limits. And that way, as we grow, we know if I'm taking in 2,000 cards, I'm getting those 2,000 cards back in my guaranteed timeline. If I don't get it back to you in your timeline, I will refund you and still grade it.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, to me, that's just how it should be. I mean, you don't go take your card down to an engine shop and they're like, I'll have it in next week. And then they're like, actually, it was $1,000, but now it's $10,000 and you'll get it back next year. I'm like, it makes no sense to me. I mean, I'm going to follow exactly what I say we're going to do. We're going to, it's a slow and steady growth versus, just opening our doors. But I want to take care of our customers.
And as a grading company as well, because it's funny that there's two of us, two people, John and myself, we don't own a company. So it's all good sometimes for us to go say things and people just to be like, yeah, whatever. It's just another remark by the boys. Right. But as a CEO of a company and you are a grading company, can you please explain to people why service is so important regarding cards in the market and their actual value? We tried to say to people before that if you send a Luka Doncic or a Trae Young, like a modern player, vintage, you don't need to worry about this because their careers are done. But Luka, Trey, Giannis, who else is there? Zion, Ja Morant. What happens in this 8-month backlog that it's at PSA? Something happens to them in their career, and their investment is literally gone down the toilet. You think you're going to get back $1,000 card, but it could be worth $100 because they've got injured. But they don't understand it. Can you just shed some light on that as to why the service is so important for that in general? That's why people
I
think.
had a big on another interview I just did recently. One of my big things was talking about for investors. A lot of people came into this now with an investor's mindset. It's definitely helped the hobby and the growth of it. From an investor standpoint, I mean, if, for example, Keldon Johnson, he picked up steam real early on. If you were holding on to 100 base prism, you're like, okay, hey, now it's worth $300 as PSA 10s are. They were worth 40 over the summer. Let me go ahead and get these graded. Well, guess what? You send them in, and it's a year and a half later. Keldon Johnson might not be relevant next year. You're going to lose tons of money. You're wasting all your grading money. So it's very imperative that when you're getting your cards back. I mean, especially from an investment standpoint.
100%. And that's the whole thing. Like, if it's 3 months, it's 3 months, not 8 months.
Right.
And I completely agree with you. Another thing is, on your website, you state that the cards are 100% accurate once they're graded. How can you ensure there's no margin for error?
I mean, we continually scan day after day. I mean, to set it up, we scan thousands of cards. We scan hundreds of PSA 10s to find the baseline, and that's something a lot of people have asked as well. Is it going to be so strict that we can't get 10s? Our baseline came from getting the average of BGS 10s and PSA 10s. We found out what those were, and then we came in the middle. So we should give out a little bit more 10s than BGS, but we're going to be far, far less than PSA 10. But as we set up our parameters on our algorithm, as long as the numbers continue, if you crack a card and send it back to us, it should get the exact same grade, unless you damage it when you're cracking it. But I mean, the algorithms and parameters, as long as the scan's clean, which we continue to keep our dust-free rooms and everything clean as possible. As long as everything is good, I mean, it should just reproduce itself time and time and time again.
I like that.
We like it.
It's setting a standard that has been unheard of.
So the question I have is the whole thing about centering, right? If you've a 10 card will have your 50-50 centering, not an obnoxious 60-40. And if it is 60-40 and everything else is on the card is perfect, well then it will get the 9.5. It shouldn't get that perfect 10 that it might get, or it might be that tiny bit off, so it might be everything else might qualify as a 10 and that might get a 9.5, so it still has a chance of getting a 10, but surely we're not going to see some of the obnoxious off-centering that gets passed through at another grading company that is just where I just call their grading standards mediocre, because that just shouldn't happen.
Yeah, when we were doing our original scans, we saw some cards all the way out to 67-33 unbalanced on centering that were still a 10 overall. Now PSA, I mean we've scanned a lot of cards. I've got pictures of some cards you'd just be like, how? And I mean, it's just like us. So what we did is, as we scanned them, we found out PSA allows a close to a 60 average rate. I mean, they'll allow up to a 60-40. And that's where, it was hard for me, because I'm thinking in my head as a collector, a 10 to me is 53-54 is where I would allow it. BGS will allow up to about a 57-43, 58-42. They're right around that range where they'll still allow up to a 10 on that. And so we actually have it set right now at 59-41 or less for centering. I don't like it, but if I come out more strict than those companies, nobody's going to come to me and want to use our service when I'm giving them a 7 on center when they can go get a 10 at PSA. So, and that's where we're going to be releasing our centering.
Okay.
I'm like, if we go too strict, the issue is going to be we're not going to get client base, because I'm so strict. I'm much more strict if I go that route than BGS and PSA. So we found the medium of the two, and we're rated right now at a 59-41 balance or less that it still qualifies for a 10. So I still think I think it's too high. But how do I come in and I'm fighting PSA, I'm fighting BGS. One allows 60-40, one allows 58-42. And then I come in and say it has to be 53.
But that's where you have the subgrades, and that's where those sorts of things come into play, because you might not have that perfect centering, but that's okay, because if the other things qualify on the card as perfect, then you know there's still that opportunity to get the 10. So
Right.
The whole thing, like we've always discussed, is no matter what happens, at least that's one credit to BGS for that. But no matter what grade you get, at least you can see how you got that grade, and
Right.
that's the great thing. Otherwise, if they're not there, you're just completely relying on the company that they're 100% accurate. So everything's a 10. There's no 9.5. You just
Our system is going to be 100% consistent within our parameters.
Yeah.
The issue that, I mean, I say it's an issue, but it's just across the industry that standard is that they allow off centers cards to score perfect grades. And it's a very weird thing. And the more that we scanned, the more I was just baffled at some of the cards that they gave 10s to.
Just to put it into perspective for the people, because I've heard you say this before, but I just want to hear it again. Is what's your 10 rate compared to PSAs?
Thousands of times less.
We just wanted to hear you say it. That's great.
Oh, this looks like a 10. You know, I really think that they're trying to crank out as many cards as they can. They're like 10, 9, 10, 10, 9, 10, 9. I think they just have their own little song back there.
Well, one thing that's extremely important for yourselves is an issue that we have in the hobby. And it is an issue, as much as people don't want to address it. We have this thing where it's an expectation thing from people in the hobby, where if they expect this to be the best, then it has to be the best. There's no other option. So the question is, what are the plans to change the perception of hobbyists when it comes to grading cards, and not make it PSA? If it's not PSA, don't bring it our way, as one great man once said in a marketing ploy for that company.
Our perception is we'll focus on us and we'll grow. As we grow and we're getting a following, we're doing our own thing, people are going to catch on. I mean, if you could see the website traffic, I mean, we were at 50,000 website views yesterday. I mean, astronomical for a company 3 weeks into a brand new business, a brand new, very competitive market where you have two giants that just own the market. People are wanting something new, and I mean, you could just see the support we're getting. I mean, it's there, so it'll eventually change. Our customers are, you know, when they're getting cards graded by us, they're starting to put them out there on the market, and they're not just dumping them cheap. I mean, I've beat this horse to death, I feel like, but everybody's asked what the value of our cards are. It's what the collector is going to sell it for. It's what our customers are allowing it to go for. We're going to set the market. So if you go out there and you grade it and then you sell it for the same price, it gets a 9.5 and you sell it for the price of a raw, you're going to negatively affect it. So I've told people, like, hey, you're the one that's going to help set the market for our cards. And the great thing that's going to help set the market for us is supply and demand. We sold out last night of 1,400 submissions, and we had 1,200, and then we released 200 a little bit earlier, because when we activate the next week amount, it retroactives for that current week. So between the 200 that were released and the 1,200 normal that were released, we sold out in 15 minutes of 1,400 cards. I had message after message, people like, are you seriously sold out? And I'm like, absolutely. We looked and we had over 8,000 cards that were put in ready to be processed that never got through last night. So the demand is there. I mean, we're only getting in probably 17% of what was punched in our system right now.
Yeah.
So the demand's there, and people were talking about shill bidding on the eBay auctions. I don't believe it is. I truly don't. I mean, when you see 31 bidders on 38 bids on something, I mean, shill bidding, I mean, that's pretty impressive to get 31 people shill bidding for you.
Yeah. I completely understand where you're coming from. Completely understand. Now, you have mentioned before with that cap that you have left yourself leeway as a company, not for people to sub, just in case there is downtime for any particular reason. So can you just give an insight into why it's capped at that, but what you have the potential to grade if you really wanted to run at full capacity? I completely understand why you're doing it, though. It is actually a great business move.
Yeah. As we grow, my biggest thing is being a man of my word. I learned that growing up, and that's just something I always stick by. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I do it. So when I opened up and we said we're going to do 1,800, when we actually ran through our processes, we were at 1,800. We were able to complete 1,800 with the staff we had on hand. I was like, okay, let's do 900. I'm like, no, let's go a little bit lower. You know, it's easier to have faster growth when you have that room than to be like, all right, let's have slow growth. People don't want to see slow growth. They want to see faster growth. So if we start at 45% of our total capacity, as we hire and train, the top line is going to go up, but then we can increase the bottom line faster too. But yeah, I leave that margin of error for anything. If our system goes down, if somebody hacks us, I'm trying to leave anything. I don't leave anything to question. If something happens, and my whole internet goes out for a day or two, we're still fine. And that's how we'll always be. I mean, I could be greedy and I could accept our maximum things and be like, oh, well, I'm a day or two late. No big deal because I'm way ahead of their timelines. But that's not who I want to be. That's not who we set out to be. And that's not who we will be.
I love it. Very, very good.
Strong statements.
When it comes to growing, though, we just wanted to ask because we weren't sure in terms of, I don't think many people know or anyone's asked you this question, but when you do grow, what's that entail? Does that mean you have to go buy more scanners, more machines? You need to employ more people? Just a bit, I understand. We're projecting a bit here. I know you're 3 weeks in, and we expect you to grow, but we just want to know how the process goes about that.
Yep. So the process is already perfectly streamlined. In order to increase, I need more computers.
Yep.
I need more employees. We need more scanners. That's it. I mean, we'll need more materials. We'll need more cases and stuff like that. But it's just a hiring issue right at this point. I mean, it's not even an issue. We're bringing people on. We're doing training. I'm trying to hire at least 4 to 5 people every single week and get them in training. My goal is to increase between 200 and 500 cards every single week. It doesn't seem like a lot, but if you stretch that out over 10 weeks, we're going to be up 3,000 to 4,000, up to 5,000 with, come by spring, middle of spring.
Very nice. And then, this time next year, so you'll have an office here in Australia to make it easy for us.
That's actually something we're actually talking about.
Yeah. So that was one thing that I was just like, I think there's opportunity for you. Obviously, you need to focus on your own backyard. But with no, and I've done my research. I've gone around to all the grading companies, and the only grading company that I believe has offices outside of the USA is CGS. But they do not do any off-site grading that is not in the US. So they actually just use those offices for people to submit their cards there locally, and then they send them over to America. I just think there's such a gap in the market now with where the hobby's at, and that, having a grading company that is not in America, and I'm not saying in Australia, but in the subcontinent where people down here on this side of the world can send their cards, don't have to send their cards all the way across the world. That's going half the distance. I think there's such an opportunity for a company, and I hope it's your company as it prospers along and it builds itself. That should be taken up, and I'm so surprised that BGS or a PSA hasn't jumped at that opportunity. But I guess when you got 3 million cards in backlog or 2 million cards in backlog, you don't really need to do anything because you've got so much business there. So I hope that's something in your future that you're hoping to build towards.
Actually, we just had a big board meeting last night about this. Our goal is to, by the end of this year, open our first international location. We're going to try to reach every at least make it more localized. We want to have a presence in the European market, the Asian market, and the Australian market. So those are the 3 markets that we're definitely going to try to put locations in, come fly out, do training, do hiring, get the system set up, lock down our IPs, lock down our software and everything, but allow them to operate. Because once we get this set up, or once we get it built to where we can secure it in those locations and we don't have to worry about it being hijacked or anything, then we can, trust people and hire people, to run our system over there. It's a fairly simple system. And it takes some training, but, it's a fairly simple system that we definitely want to make sure that customers overseas have just as much access as our customers do here. We're able to, run a lot of reports on the larger companies here, PSA and BGS. Well, one of them's public, so we were able to run their thing, but almost 30% of their traffic comes from overseas. So I feel like them not ever reaching out globally is just a slap in the face to the other markets that they don't support.
And to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of people just don't send the cards because of that backlog now in Australia. Like talking to collectors, they're like, well, we just don't send it. We're just going to wait. You could be waiting a very, very long time. But that's that's honestly, that number could be a lot higher. It could be close to 35% potentially, or pushing to 40. But they just now got to the point where they're like, what's the point?
Right.
Like, it just makes no sense to send the card, get it back in a year. And like, we've sent some cards, and like to a company, we're still waiting, and they haven't got a backlog as big as PSA. So it's like, you don't know. You just don't know. But the one thing that you said, the word there that you really hit on is streamlining processes. Like, streamlining there is like, that's really what people in the hobby want to hear. So that's fantastic. And hopefully we look forward to something coming down under. It'd be awesome. And you coming down under so we can meet you in person,
Absolutely.
which also
I'll
be
be there
fantastic.
soon.
Very nice. Now, your labels. Completely different. You've got different variants to your labels. Give us an insight into that. And also, is there a BGS black label equivalent that is coming out? What's it going to look like? Yeah, so touch on that.
Okay. Labels, I just thought they were old school. I feel like, I mean, PSA's been using the same labels besides their update on their watermarks and stuff, the Lighthouse label. BGS just got the old gold plaque. Looks great on my grandpa's golf trophies. It's cool. But it's just, I feel like they're just outdated. I mean, the cards nowadays, I mean, they're very modern. They're artistic. You got a lot of arts in them. Some of the Court King sets, I mean, just look a lot better than they did, back 30, 40 years ago. So our whole idea was to bring a little more life to the labels, but to not overpower them. So that's why we allow you to do team color match or card color match. So if it's a red prism, even if it's Jordan Love, we can do the red prism colors to bring out the red. So it doesn't overshadow, but it's also not like a boring, bland label that looks like it. I mean, that doesn't match every card. So, I mean, if you get a solid black card or like anything black, the red and white just doesn't go well with it. There's a lot of colors the red and white doesn't go with. And same thing with the BGS. It just looks old and outdated. So we want to allow people to have some customization options. Again, a lot more work for us on the back end, but it's something that we feel like some collectors might like. So we have the team color match, the card color match. We have a neutral, and then we'll be releasing a neutral, 2 variants of the neutrals this week, neutral white and neutral black. Just so, I mean, we try to listen to feedback, and as much as we can, we're going to provide people with what they want. I mean, everything's not possible, but a lot of things are that they decide, they're too big to even worry about. They're going to make their money either way. The big companies will. We listen. As we grow, we want to grow into the market and try to provide everything that we can that collectors and hobbyists are wanting.
Very nice. I like it. I like it a lot. So that BGS black label equivalent, is there any
I'm
insight?
hoping to show it Tuesday. We contacted it's our flawless label. We have
I like that, flawless
in-house, and it's ready to be slabbed. And we've talked to the customer, let them know that they have our first flawless. So we are going to hopefully on Tuesday have it. We've got our first prototypes of our flawless label back over this week, and we had sent it back to our designers to make some changes to it. But we should have it ready to go Monday or Tuesday. So we'll be posting it on our Facebook page when it's ready.
There you go, ladies and gents. HGA 10 flawless. That is going to be their top grade that they're going to give, which is awesome. I like flawless. Great name. Your pricing for your slabs. Now, people said, "Oh, it's too expensive." Some like they're not too happy with the pricing. I don't see that an issue based on the traffic you're getting. So people definitely want to slab their cards with you. But just an insight into the pricing scheme that you have set up and why the slabs do cost that much.
There's a lot more work that goes into ours and a lot more time that goes into ours than the other systems. We've watched as many videos, done as much training. We have some people who have been employed by them before that have helped us with this. So we know what the average time per card is that goes through their system versus our system. It takes us a lot longer to grade. We have extra steps. We are more accurate. Everything about our product, I feel, is second to none. I don't feel like our product in any way is inferior to BGS or PSA. I feel like in all ways our product is superior. The only thing it's going to take is time for us to be recognized on the market. So I don't shy away from our prices. They are what they are. They're set in stone, but you're getting your product that you pay for exactly when you're paying for it. There's no and if or buts about it. I've got thousands of cards off that have been on 10 days and I still don't have them back. So you don't have to worry about that. I offer you a price and a product, and we provide it.
Very nice. And your slabs are made locally?
We actually get them made right. I mean, it's 30 minutes down the road. We use a local injection molding company. A lot more expensive than going overseas. When we first looked into this, we looked at some overseas factories that could pump these out. But the quality control was not very good. The materials that they wanted to use was a lot cheaper. I didn't like that. I try to support local businesses as much as possible, and I feel like everybody should do that. Support your local. I mean, no matter where you're at.
Very nice.
We like it.
Now, a few more things before we do finish up. The last ones are more personal about yourself and your collecting. As a collector in the hobby, what's your favorite card in your PC?
Just my Joe Burrow collection.
Fair enough. Very nice. And your favorite card that you purchased in 2020, HGA graded or not?
Favorite card I purchased.
Surely you got like a nice Burrow RPA sitting there or something.
I have all kinds. That's what I'm saying. You going to favorite. Oh man. I actually like my Zion. I have a Zion RPA out of Panini 101.
Oh, my favorite product.
He loves it.
That Panini 101 is an absolute killer. For me, hands down, like the best upper market product of the year, hands down. It looks so much better than the immaculate and the flawless stuff. So
yeah, I opened a lot of it, and the prices. I mean, I was buying it at $4,500 a case when it first dropped, and man, I could set on and make a living. But it's fun. It's fun opening product.
Yeah.
So I busted 3 cases as soon as it came out. I love it.
Very nice. Yeah, opening cases are so much better. Boxes and ripping your own products is so much better than having to go search for it. It's just the joy of opening cards, and I think that's starting to get lost a little bit. We need it back. We definitely need that back. Sure. Very last question for you. I've read a lot of questions. I know, John, you probably would have seen a lot of them as well. And everyone has made this comment. I have heard you say this on the Luca Bronze Tiger podcast. Shout out to them. But I want you to tell our audience as well that a lot of people we've seen have said, Tyler's doing this, HGA are doing this, they're going to get to a certain point. So then they've got all the technology up and running and set up, and they're just doing this to the point where a company like BGS or PSA are going to just come and just buy them out, and it's just going to be an affiliate office for them. What do you have to say to some of those comments?
My CFO's asked me, he's like, with the noise we're causing, he's like, there's going to be big offers. We've had lots of offers already. People coming on like, would you take 2 million, 3 million? No, I'm not interested in selling. I did this because I love cards. And I'm very anal when it comes to the way that people are treated. And I felt like we weren't being treated right. There's no reason I would sell. I don't need the money. I have plenty of money. I make 7 figures a year. I've got all the money I need to live happy. I did this because there's an issue and nobody's fixing it. I just got tired of sitting around. Like, is there anybody, we try to search companies coming out, companies coming up. Like, is there any company that we can get behind and, support? And there wasn't. There was nobody that I felt like was going to step forward and try to take on the market. I have no fear. I don't care to fail. If I fail, I fail. I'll try again. I'll get back up and try again. That's just how I've been raised, and that's just how my life's been. So I won't fail at this. I have way too much experience now. I'm getting a little bit older and a lot wiser. So we spent a lot of time. We came out of nowhere because I waited till we were ready to launch. I'm not going to sit here and be like, hey, we're going to try to launch this day. We're going to try to launch this day. It would have made me lose credibility. Instead, I just came on the market literally one day. I said, hey, we're open.
That's exactly right.
I make sure that when we were ready to launch, we were ready to take on the big dogs. We're here to stay. There's no reason that I see us going anywhere, and I'll never sell out.
Beautiful. Love that. That's a G up for us, Source. I love that inspiration and that commitment. Genuinely, it's fantastic to hear. Where can we find you? I know we'll tag you in all the relevant socials and stuff, but where can we find you for the listeners and the viewers out there?
You can go to our website at hybridgrading.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I think TikTok. I mean, I have a social media team trying to set it up everywhere and, keep up with it. It's a lot. We're getting lots and lots and lots of messages, lots of support, lots of questions. And, we're trying to keep up with it all. And, it's getting to a point now where I've got 2 assistants. I'm getting ready to hire a 3rd assistant, 2 more customer service people. I mean, our customer service team is almost as big as my actual work team right now. So
expanding every day. You know what's a good thing, Tyler? If they got questions, you can be like, I answered a hell of a lot of these questions on the Double Coverage podcast, and just send them the link to the Double Coverage podcast, and be like, it's stuff that you probably want to answered. I've answered on this podcast.
Perfect. I'll send them right there too.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. We really do appreciate it. So thank you, Tyler.
Thank you
Had
so
a great
much.
time. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's been Dom, your boy Sauce, and Tyler Hitt, the CEO of HGR Hybrid Grading Approach. Keep living, loving, and breathing all sports with Double Coverage, and peace out, ladies and gents.
Peace out, ladies and gents.
Thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to leave a review on the Apple Podcasting app. Also, follow us on socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Talking all sports, Double Curve.